A historic week for Georgia athletics as the Georgia baseball team, our Diamond DAWGS, have punched their ticket to Omaha for the first time in 18 years. It is a great time to be a Georgia Bulldog and some recruiting wins in the quarterback department. We got a great episode today. I'm Keegan, my co-host is Cheeto, and this is another episode of Dogs Off the Leash.
I do it for the dogs.
Gotta have fun with those intros, Cheeto. Just gotta loosen it up. But man, what a week for Georgia fans. And I never thought I would find baseball this interesting. No lie, don't want to cap. I always root for the Braves. Got my 2021 t-shirt on, but Georgia baseball just put a high watermark for what it can mean to be entertaining back-to-back barn burner games. Amazing things for Georgia fans. And how are you feeling right now? I know you got to catch at least a good part of one of these games, right? You witnessed some of this greatness, right?
Absolutely, man. And it feels like we're in a little bit of a parallel universe with the University of Georgia right now. Normally we're bragging on football or equestrian or tennis or track, all of these other sports where we've kind of seen a big uptick. Baseball, it's been a little bit since we've had this type of success. But ever since Wes Johnson got here, it's just been a steady moving train. And this weekend, the series against the other Bulldogs in the conference, Mississippi State, was absolutely no exception. Game one, Keegan, which I think you're going to go over for us, was an absolute thriller. I didn't get to catch a lot of that, but game two, I was locked in. Trey being out the first game, and then the Dogs still managed to win, and then the whole squad comes back. An overtime blast by Daniel Jackson. This team is just so much fun to watch. The pitching is amazing. The bats are elite on every level, and this is a team that has a chance to really make some noise now that they've made it to this College World Series.
Man, I was so impressed just by the fan fever, right? Like, Georgia fans are especially used to bonding over football, and we just recently had a moment where we were bonding over basketball with March Madness, and we really got to see the passion of the fan base at another time of the year other than the fall, right? Like, we're all rooting for Georgia, but to really be a part of these diehard moments where it matters the most, that's what it's all about. And Georgia baseball did not disappoint, but this isn't just a contending team, dude. This is a historic team. Offense especially. We're putting up like 20, 30 home runs. I don't know exact numbers, but the second leading home run hitting team is like a mile behind Georgia, right? So we literally just have the numbers coming into this, but to see the clutch pitching and a hard draw, kudos to Mississippi State and Georgia for really having to slug it out in what could have been a championship game, right? Because both of these teams had the hottest bats coming in. I know Mississippi State wasn't as highly ranked as Georgia, but did we see another team put 10 runs up other than Georgia and Mississippi State? And I don't just think like there's this weird psychology where you have to in a baseball game. It's kind of interesting where all of a sudden the bats just like, oh, everybody can hit all of a sudden. But I mean, I looked at the other scores around the super regionals. I think there might have been one team that like was knocking on 10 runs in a game. So both of these teams kind of had bad luck, if you want to call it that, to pull each other. But what it created for fans was an ultimate entertaining slobber knocker. And both games kind of like paralleled each other, right? The first was a historic comeback from Georgia. We go down 7 runs by the third inning, right? And like, I'm not Mr. Baseball expert, but like, you're watching the game, you're like, this doesn't look good. But I actually had like that naivete optimism, Cheeto. So I was like, oh, we got it. but like to be honest, if I really knew my baseball, I'd be like, this is done as a wrap. But
it's a long game, though, man. It's a long game. You got to stay in there. And to University of Georgia's credit, that is the 6th time they've played Mississippi State. It's one thing to beat a team a couple times, 3 times, handful of times. To beat them 6 times and then not to be able to find any adjustments or nothing like that, but that's really hard to do. The comeback, like you said, game one. I didn't get to see a lot of game one, and I'm sure there's some other fans who may be listening who also didn't. Can you kind of give us just a summary after the 7-0 deficit, what that looked like?
Okay, so I'll break it down best I can, and we'll just, give me some grace on my notes. But historical fact alert, teams that were down previously in a super regional by 7 runs were 0-149. So no team out of 149 teams had ever overcome that deficit. So needless to say, the odds were stacked against the Diamond DAWGS. Well, they weren't hearing that, so they put up a major monster 5-run inning in the 4th. They end up tying it up 7-7. The guy who had to replace Trey Phelps, Michael O'Shaughnessy, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, ends up with the tie-in run. So he comes in clutch. And mind you, like, this guy's a solid hitter, but he hasn't been Mr. Clutch Chipper Jones cleanup. But this game was his game, so a shining moment, a silver lining to the bullshit Trey Phelps ejection ban or what have you there. But then Mississippi State isn't having it. After they're down 9-7, they make it a baseball game again. So after Georgia tied it up, they go up 9-7. Then Mississippi State pushes it back. Now we got a 10-9 game for Georgia. We're down 12-10. Like, I'm getting chill bumps just thinking about it. The sweat on the back of my neck is like coming down, and it was a hot, humid day. After Georgia goes down 12-10, there were 2 guys on base. Michael O'Shaughnessy hits a 3-run homer for the go-ahead score. Dogs win 13-12. So that was quite a barn burner.
Throws it all over the plate. Has a lot of breaking balls. Love watching him pitch. Then once he got relieved, I don't know who the pitcher was who came after him, but this pitcher, I don't even know how many runs we were up. We were up 2 or 3 runs. Gives up back-to-back home runs. And then, like a good pitching coach does, didn't wait. Wes Johnson comes out of the dugout, brings in Justin Bird. Justin Bird throws 3 scoreless innings. And then you have Daniel Jackson with the 2-run blast in overtime. This team has literally everything that you need to win championships, to win games, to win series. They are a ton of fun to watch. You watch a lineup from top to bottom. Any pitcher from the opposing team hangs a baseball over that strike zone, it is gone. It is gone. There are so many elite bats in this lineup. It is so much fun to watch. It's really given Braves back during that championship run, right? It was just a lot of good hitters. And then for the Braves, pitching has always been a thing. But that year, it was just absolutely excellent in the playoffs when it had to be. Georgia is giving the exact same energy, and I cannot wait to see them start this run. And they're going to start it against Texas, I believe, around lunchtime on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, Keegan.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'll be there, but I haven't ruled it out. So that's exciting. How about the fact that I would love nothing more to take some glory from the Texas Longhorns? Like, this has been our proxy rival, right? With the new SEC, Texas has just come in talking the most shit, wanting to own it the most. They've always been a team kind of like Ohio State with the obnoxious, massive fan base. They always kind of end up getting a little bit of grace for the media eyeballs. So they get in the, like, historically, they're apt to get in games that they probably don't belong in just because there's going to be a number of viewers watching. So, like, your average college football fan doesn't really like Texas. And then you extend this out to baseball, where they're probably actually more consistently elite and actually really good. Like, this is where a Texas fan is like, well, you might have had us in football, but like, we're the Texas Longhorns baseball team. Like, surely you won't have us in this. But I don't know, man. Like, I am not the baseball guy, but when your bats are this hot and the pitching steps up like they do, I know Kirby's always talking about complimentary football, but what a way to put away Mississippi State. And was that not super complimentary? I know you don't want to give up like 20-something runs, but to be able to be clutch when you needed to be, and like you mentioned, Aoki really held his own to the end, and then we were able to kind of do some finagling and some bailing out. Like, that is what makes a championship team a championship team. It's the ability to pull yourself out of these holes and come up clutch when you need to. And we're doing it all behind another great Dan Jackson, right? Like, I don't know what it is about Dan Jackson's and UGA, but we got the Rhino at the helm. So I'm super excited. I hope that we can pull it out. But for those who are not familiar with the format, there's 8 teams that go to the College World Series. It's double elimination. So it's like double-sided bracket. There's 4 teams on one side, 4 teams on the other side. Double elimination. So basically the last team standing, if they need to play an additional game so that a team gets eliminated, they will. But basically, if you lose 2 games, you're out. the surviving teams advance to the championship, and then it's more a traditional 2 out of 3 series. So we're set up great. I think the SEC had 5 teams, Cheeto, or something like that, like the maximum amount of SEC teams.
I think it was a
Something
record,
like
if I'm not mistaken. SEC normally is well represented, but this year, I guess if you want to call it an anomaly, there's some good teams from the SEC representing this year. Absolutely.
Yeah, and from what I understand, it's all in the context of college baseball at large being a little bit critical of the SEC, saying we're having a down year or like we're trending in the wrong direction. So I don't know if that means we're just like extra top heavy for that to be a narrative at all. But either way, you're wrong, college baseball. It's weird talking about college baseball, man. But hey, Georgia's doing it. They're facing Texas.
Yeah, and another difference when it comes to Georgia versus Texas as opposed to Georgia versus Texas baseball and football is Georgia is obviously probably the favorite right now, maybe in the entire tournament. They have been red hot for a while. But if it's up to people like Dave Portnoy, who's the president of Barstool, who is none too pleased with the Georgia Bulldogs right now because he couldn't get any airtime from UGA. UGA may go into this one as the villain. So I don't know if everybody's going to be pulling for Georgia. But to be honest, man, I feel like the media in general, they don't like Georgia teams. They never show Georgia love unless they absolutely have to. And every opportunity they get to trash UGA, they take it. So to me, to hell with them. I say we do this run. I don't need no media, none of that. Let's go win this championship and force them to put some respect on our name, because they never show us any love otherwise. So I don't really care, man. Let's keep it pushing. Let's keep these bats going.
Hey, let's earn it. Sounds good. Georgia baseball plays Texas, and another through line for the state of Texas is that Georgia just picked up a big-time commitment, quarterback Colton Nussmeier out of the state of Texas. He's a 4-star, quite a ball player, but people will immediately point to the last name. That is because he is the younger brother of Garrett Nussmeier and the son of Doug Nussmeier, the offensive coordinator for the Saints. Great-looking film, great-looking pedigree. Cheeto, what are your thoughts on the latest 4-star commitment for the class of 2027?
Yeah, this was one that UGA really needed. I know some people had kind of predicted that it was going to go this way. He wasn't on my radar, but again, recruiting is in a weird space right now, but this is a great pickup. Like you mentioned, he's got the pedigree. He was coming off an injury and he didn't have the best showing at the Elite 11, but I think right now, going with this type of player that obviously has a lot of upside, I think it's a great move for UGA, right? He is the number 14 quarterback in the recruiting class from Texas. You mentioned his affiliation, his brother, his dad. So he comes from a football family. That's always a really good, non-physical trait to have going in. And he's a lefty. So a lot of people are already kind of hearkening that to like the David Green days, right? So sometimes that can be a bit of a thing. But for me, and not that the 2027 class is really great right now, I think we're like top 20 to 25, so it's not where Georgia is accustomed to being. But as far as quarterbacks go, Nussmeier and Wade, the number 1 quarterback recruit from 2028, I think Georgia's actually in a pretty good place as far as quarterbacks go for the future of the program. Now, after Gunner, there are some questions, but I think a lot of people are starting to accept the fact that we could be a good team if either Puglisi kind of gets back to what he's supposed to be or Hezekiah Millender. So right now, at quarterback, Georgia looks like it is a team that has a future, and I think that's just very promising. It's good for recruiting classes. Other players come in like, hey, we got a good class. This is going to be a good wave of talented players. I want to join, and then you see the future coming behind that as well. So, yeah, I think we have a future, and that happened right before we lost on Chance Gilbert. So we're hitting some, we're missing some, but adding Nussmeier to 2027, I think, is a big get for the University of Georgia. Now the goal is to keep him in the class.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're touching on a very important point. I think getting the commitment from a dude like Nussmeier is the kind of sweet spot that maybe Georgia recruiting needs to lean into, because you're probably definitely more likely to lose a last-minute recruitment with big money when it is a top 3 consensus quarterback, right? And I'm not saying we should stop recruiting those guys, but if we put all our eggs into one basket every year and we don't get them even just like at 50%, that's not good for Georgia football. Now, yes, we can go to the transfer portal. what you're talking about is just having dudes in the room. And I think that any team you look at where they've had 3 guys that are competing realistically, the whole football team is better. So I think that's our baseline strategy. Put talent in the quarterback room, let Mike Bobo do his thing, see what cream rises to the top, as they say. Just from watching the tape on Colton Nussmeier, the one thing immediately that pops out to me is his elite ability to throw on the run. That's the one thing he's got, about as good as you will see at the high school level. You're running full speed. You got to square the shoulders. You got to have the athletic balance to make it all happen. He's got quick feet when he needs to in the pocket and a lot of accuracy. Now, he's not as athletic as some of these guys. He doesn't have the cannon of an arm as some of these guys, but you don't necessarily need that. And I think he's probably at least as good as Ryan Puglisi, maybe like a better chance of being as good as even like Carson Beck. And I think on the high end, he reminds me a lot of Ty Simpson. So those are kind of my comps, and that's kind of my range, is what we expect Ryan Puglisi to do now, and then as good as maybe like a Ty Simpson if he churns out. Because this guy is not going to come in and start day one, and we might be talking about Hezekiah Millender next year, Bryson Beaver next year. We have no idea who the quarterback really is going to be. But I do think we have a lot to work with Colton Nussmeier. And like you said, Cheeto, he's very raw, but talented. Raw, but talented. So lots to like there.
So when you mentioned that he's a good thrower on the run, the first thing I always think when I hear about a quarterback who does that is Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
Every single time. Now, he doesn't have the physical tools as Trevor. He's not as sharp as Trevor. But Trevor terrorized defenses in college doing just that. Rolling out of the pocket, being like almost in a dead sprint and just contorting his body and just nailing comebacks on the edge or hitches or whatever routes on the outside. He did it in his sleep. Now,
yeah.
And we'll see how his career goes. But again, nice addition to the 2027 class. Now, he's from Texas. Another quarterback from Texas that is also terrorizing college football right now in a less
conventional way.
Yeah, in a less conventional way is Brendan Sorsby from Texas Tech. And this is kind of shaking. This is kind of shaking college football. Now, let me put it 2 ways. I, for one, am kind of ticked off with the fact that we are here in college football. But I also have been saying on this podcast, and Keegan, I've said this to you several times, eventually we were going to get here. This is how this type of stuff always goes. And I'm just talking about as a whole. Yeah. When you allow these influences and money to be the number one priority of players and agents and schools and TV deals, all that stuff, this is what eventually happens. And then you add gambling, which is what the problem that this guy had. Not only do they reinstate him or allow him to bypass whatever the ban was, they move his trial out to February of 2027. Like, I was already worried about college football, but for me, man, I'll be honest with you, and I'll let you kind of throw in your 2 cents. I know you have a lot of good details and opinions on this as well. They've killed college football.
Yeah.
I don't want to like blow it too far out of proportion, but if college football is still alive, it's a corpse, and it's a zombie, and it's walking. But this is how you kill a sport. This is 101 how you kill a sport, and it sucks for those of us who love college football to watch this play out. It really does. It's awful.
Well, it's nothing the fans are doing, right? In a certain sense, at least. It's like, we're not killing college football. And like, I had this thought earlier today. I hadn't heard this floated yet, but I'll float it here. Out of all the commissioner takes and councils they need to create and empowerment that supposedly they'll get from Congress, what have you, they need to make a council of elders and just every fan base just elect like one super fan. I'm thinking of like how in the movie Troy, Achilles, played by Brad Pitt, goes and fights this like giant of a man. It's like the 2 best fighters fight from either army, but either way, the top representative, some crazy passionate fan. Maybe we get Big Dog out here repping the dogs or something, but just like a council of fans making these decisions, because we cannot trust athletic directors, coaches, committee members. We can't trust any of them. Like, we literally cannot trust any of these guys. I'm not saying there aren't some good apples among the bad apples, but so far you guys have failed us. Y'all failed. So I think the fans need to decide. We'll elect a Senate of fans. I don't know. It's a top of mind thought, but I'm just saying something's got to happen. It's very nasty. But I think what you're seeing, dude, is like several problems are converging at once. You have the corruption of college football that is constantly getting influenced by money. That's been a thing, but it's worse than it ever has been. You have the nature of NIL and the transfer portal taking place. And then you have this sneaky sleeping giant of a problem in America, in this culture, where the cool thing to do, Cheeto, I don't know if you know, is just to gamble all the time. Like, if you don't have a bet on a game, you're not a cool bro, right? And, like, I don't necessarily have everything against gambling, because I guess you could maybe do it in, like, a lighthearted, fun, silly, ethical way. But it's taken a hold of a lot of people and ruined their life. Like, a lot of people are struggling with gambling addiction. And by no means do I want to come out and just, like, hate on Brendan Sorsby as a person. Like, I really don't care about that. I don't know if I like him, but, you know, it's not really about persecuting him. It's just that there is a precedent in sports to take gambling seriously. One of the most famed stories of all time is that Pete Rose was gambling on his team as a manager. He gets banned for life from baseball and never makes it to the Hall of Fame. And he was a shoo-in Hall of Famer with 3,000 hits, right? And just a legendary career. And I think on paper, a lot of how he betted was less problematic than the Sorsby bets, over 9,000 bets. But the point being is there's a precedent where someone who really made amends, didn't even do a thing as bad, a Hall of Famer, mind you, spoke out against gambling, did everything he could possibly ever do, and they kept him out of the Hall of Fame and they banned him from baseball. Another dude, I think, gave some information, NBA player, like a few years ago, I think it was Jonte something or another, but he ends up banned for life. So, like, there's a precedent to ban people for life. I'm not necessarily even advocating for that, because I do take it seriously that, like, other athletes in the future will suffer from gambling addiction or what have you. So I think there should be, like, some form of grace. But if you're not talking about, like, 50% of the season bare minimum, it's a slap in the face. Like, something has to be done, and just pretending that it's blase and it doesn't matter. Like, I think this also speaks to the backyard bullshit that Texas politics is on. Like, I love visiting the place, a lot of cool people from Texas, but their politics is just old school, good old boy bullshit. And they got a judge just writing away the keys to the kingdom because he can just step in and do that. So there's a lot wrong with what's going on with Brendan Sorsby
and I think,
college
like,
football.
If not all of the judges, a majority of the judges were Texas Tech alumni. So it's a bad look. And now most teams in college football are staying away from Texas Tech. They're not scheduling them. The Big 12 really has a big decision, decide what they're going to do. TV contracts are going to play a huge role in this, because if people refuse to play Texas Tech, is that an automatic L? Are you forfeiting that game? Do you play that game? You know, who's bought that game on TV? So this is going to send shockwaves through college football. Again, in my opinion, it was a matter of time before it got this way. It won't be the last. It's really not the first, like you said, Keegan, but now you have all these other issues. Lawmakers having to get involved to stop this chaos. And day by day, year by year, we are seeing the unraveling of college football. And regardless of where you stand, it really is a sad sight to see. But that's what's going on with Texas.
The one thing I'll say is supposedly the NCAA has a chance to make an appeal to this injunction. So there's at least a chance we'll be talking about the fact that Brendan Sorsby cannot play, or there are harsher penalties at play that are, you know, appeasing the fan bases at large. But right now, I know I personally was disgusted, and I'm at least a little affirmed, Cheeto, that the world over sports are not having it. So if one judge in Texas can go against, like, a whole shockwave of opinions that I didn't even expect to be this dramatic, then we definitely have a much larger problem, and it just speaks to the need for a hierarchy with transparency. It can't just be like a judge out of left field says this. Like, no, there needs to be a structure. There needs to be checks and balances. And like I said, I'm not against Brendan Sorsby. this guy might be like inspiring a generation to not gamble 5 years from now or something. Like, I don't know what the Lord has in store for this young man, but at the same time, it's bullshit right now, and I don't think he should play at least like half the season. Sorry.
Me personally, if I'm Texas Tech, I'm not risking the death penalty or my 2026 season for one player. A player who's not won me a national title or nothing like that. He needs to be in the NFL, to be honest. Like, he needs to go on to the NFL and stop this. If I'm Texas Tech, we're taking care of this real quick. I'm not dealing with the bad PR. I'm not having my whole conference alienate me for one player. I'm not doing it, especially when he clearly violated the rules. It's absolute nonsense. So I'm hoping Texas Tech does the right thing, but we're going to see. Stranger things have happened. That's where we're at right now in college football. Anything goes. But to continue on with the Texas thing, Keegan, if I may, the San Antonio Spurs got their first win of the NBA Finals. We didn't have a podcast prior to the NBA Finals starting. Game 4 coming up in a couple days. But I want to go ahead and go on record now. I did pick the Spurs in 6 games. I'm going to change my pick right here, right now. Spurs in 7 games. Okay? I really, just going in, hear me out here, and I'll let you have the floor. Going in. I felt like, yes, the Spurs are much younger. And yes, the Knicks have been playing the best basketball of any NBA team this postseason. Both of those things are true. But I felt like the game plan that the Spurs used to guard SGA from OKC could be applied to Jalen Brunson, which is what happened in the game last night. I also felt like the Knicks could find their way going backwards the way that they started against the Hawks, right? He was kind of passive. He was hanging out on the perimeter, not really involved in the offense, and the Hawks got 2 games off the Knicks. Then they started using Cat as the centerpiece of the offense, and the Knicks started winning and haven't looked back. Same thing happened last night. Wemby got going. Wemby dropped 32 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and I'm sure he had a couple blocks in there. I should have recorded. I didn't. Stephon Castle has been playing out of his mind. 23, 5 and 5. Jalen Brunson had a great game, but he was really inefficient and didn't really close the way he has been in these wins, right? 32 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and then OG Anunoby. Going into this series, I felt like OG Anunoby was going to have to be the X factor. And last night, even in a loss, he was. 28 points, 5 rebounds. But I felt like the Spurs had enough to contain Brunson and contain Cat with that matchup, and that OG Anunoby was going to have to kind of lead the way. He did it last night. He's going to have to keep doing it as the Knicks look to keep home court advantage in Game 4. Keegan, what are your thoughts about the NBA Finals?
Okay, so you got 2 things happening. You got a historic player. You got a player on a historic tear like Wemby. It was just putting up numbers that really we haven't seen on a consistent level in the playoffs in a minute, right? And then doing it in his like 7'6" frame. So just legendary performance, especially being so young. He's like meditating, doing coloring books at the park, all this. It's impressive. But on the other side, you have a historic team making a historic run, the likes of which we haven't seen since the Warriors. So all of this converging, to my memory as a Hawks fan, at one point in time, the Hawks had a historic team going up against the historic player in LeBron. So that went LeBron's way. I'm kind of like erring on the side of the Knicks finishing. I don't want it to happen. The Knicks fans are absolute babies. You saw how they reacted to the loss, the rioting in the streets. It's honestly pathetic. So it would give me no joy in any case to see them win. But I just feel like if you're talking about a run that is comparable to the 2016 Warriors, I got to go with that historic team. So I'm taking the Knicks in that. But like the Spurs are right there. If this were like video game scenarios, I could see the Spurs winning. If Wemby were in a later year in his career, I think that experience would add up with the intangibles that he has to really put them over. But since that's not the case, since he's young and the Knicks are historically kicking ass, I got the Knicks finishing the series. But it gives me no joy. All the famous Knicks fans are as obnoxious as ever. And the prices to these games, Cheeto, are just astronomical. Like I know a lot of the WWE fans that are talking online are talking about how like even WrestleMania tickets aren't as expensive as these finals tickets, and that's like the holy grail of tickets for wrestling fans is the WrestleMania tickets. And even like the nosebleed tickets are more expensive than prime WrestleMania tickets. So it's just absurd. I don't know who can afford to spend $5,000 to sit in the nosebleeds, but someone's doing it. But anyway, it's,
and
it's crazy.
I'm looking at the schedule right now. Game 4 is Wednesday. The tickets, the tickets for New York are absolutely insane. So Game 4 in New York is going for about $5,000. Then Saturday, if needed, Saturday in San Antonio, tickets are going for about $1,360, and then the next Tuesday back in New York. Tickets as low as $10,000. So New York is just one of them. It's just one of those venues that's going to charge an arm and a leg because they can. They've got their celebrity row. They love to talk about it. The one thing I think Hawk fans prefer the Knicks to win because at least you can say that you got beat by the champions. And then on top of that, to give the Knicks credit, and shout out Timothy Chalamet. He's about to go crazy on the movies this year. But at least their celebrities over there, unlike Los Angeles, their celebrities actually love ball. In LA, those celebrities just go just to be seen. They couldn't give a damn what the outcome of the game is. The New York fans, as crazy as they are, they love their basketball team. So shout out to them. And Flea, I'm not talking to you. Flea from LA, he loves the Lakers. So yeah, it's been a good final so far. I'm hoping that it'll go 6-7 games so we get a good one. So yeah, Keegan. But that's all I got in the sports world.
I don't know. It just speaks to the nature of sports right now. You have like all these. We're talking about the money corruption. We're talking about NIL. We're talking about sports betting, and all in the background, fans like you and me have to pay out of the ass to like go to these games. So quite a juxtaposition and a lot of talk about inequity in the sports world, right? Like it's kind of getting out of hand. So Georgia plays Texas, College World Series. It's going to be a good one. We'll definitely be leaned in to see if our dogs can make a push for Natty. And like those back-to-back games, Cheeto, were probably the most entertaining baseball games I've ever seen. It was so enjoyable, such a good time. Everyone at Kudzu Hill was going crazy. I love how that has taken a central focus in the media, at least, considering, like you said, they don't throw us many bones. But the Georgia family isn't going anywhere, right? So even if they try to ruin college sports, which they very well might, us dogs we got each other, so. There's that.
Yeah, it turned out to be an interesting week. My schedule got a little bit more interesting this week too. So what we're going to try to do is either hop on the podcast either during the game or shortly after. So Dawg Nation will be with you as we watch the Dogs try to go get this baseball championship. But Keegan, I always appreciate you taking the time. Dawg Nation, it's always a blast. Make sure you guys catch us wherever you get your podcast, whether that is on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And as always, guys, you know what it is.
Off the leash.
Off the leash.
For the Dogs.